Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Srimad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotar Sri Srimad Srila HG Bhakti Dasa Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotar Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayan Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaimadire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Praresha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to a pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, give me a second here. Okay. So on this 22nd day of January, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we will be reading from the, let's see. We're reading from the fifth canto, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 12, Conversation between Maharaja Hugana and Jadabharata, text number 8. But before we do that, today is the appearance day, I believe, of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and disappearance of Ramachandra Kaviraja. So we're going to read a little bit about them first. Hare Krishna. All right. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the son of Vyenkatta Bhatta, a Sri Vaishnava Brahman, appeared in Sri Rangam, South India. Lord Chaitanya once stayed 4 months in his home and converted the family to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. A mere boy at this time, Gopal personally served the Lord. Sri Chaitanya treated him affectionately, giving his remnants and blessings to become an Acharya. During his 4-month stay, Lord Chaitanya developed a close friendship with Vyenkatta Bhatta, which Krishnadas Kaviraja describes as Sakya Ras. Freely conversing with each other, they would often laugh and joke together. One day, in a humorous mood, Lord Chaitanya asked Vyenkatta, "Why does your worshipable goddess of fortune, Sri Lakshmi Devi, abandon the happiness of Vaikuntha and her service to her Lord Narayan? Why does she go to Vrindavan and perform severe austerities to attain the association of my Lord Gopal, the cowherd boy of Braja?" "I can't understand these mysteries," said Vyenkatta, "but you, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, can surely enlighten me." So now, Lord Gauranga answers, "Lord Krishna has one unique quality. He attracts the hearts of everyone with his personal conjugal love, Madhurya. Lord Narayan only has 60 transcendental qualities, but Sri Krishna has 64, and all of them are saturated with his unique quality of Madhurya, or honey sweetness. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, attracts the mind of Lakshmi Devi, but Lord Narayan can never attract the minds of the Braja Gopis. In Brajalila, Krishna, disguised as Lord Narayan, once appeared before the gopis who were searching for Krishna. Seeing Lord Narayan, the gopis said, 'O Lord Narayan, pranams. Where did Krishna go? Did you see?' By following the gopis, who spontaneously love Krishna without awareness of his godhood, one can attain Krishna. The Shrutis worshipped Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis. Following in their footsteps, they received gopis' bodies to join Krishna in the rasa dance. Lakshmi, however, wanted to enjoy Krishna but retain her spiritual form as Lakshmi Devi. Without following the gopis' footsteps, no one can attain Krishna." After receiving initiation from Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati, Gopal Bhatta came to Vrindavan and became a dear friend of Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. He did bhajan in Vrindavan for 45 years, mostly at Radhakund. On pilgrimage, he obtained 12 Shalagram Shilas. Later, the Damodar Shila manifested himself as the beautiful Radha-Raman deity. Since 1542, Radha-Ramanaji has been worshipped with pure devotion following precise shastric rituals. Lord Chaitanya ordered Gopal Bhatta to write a book to check the spread of pseudo-loving rasas and negligence to Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti is regulative devotional service. Sadhana Bhakti. In cooperation with Sri Sanatana Goswami, he compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the authorized book explaining the ritual and devotional practices of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He also wrote Sat Kriya Deepika and the outline for Jiva Goswami's Shat Sandarbhas, 6 theses on devotional service. He eternally serves Srimati Radharani as one of her Ashtamanjaris, Guna Manjari. His samadhi is within Radha-Ramanaji's temple compound behind the appearance place of the deity. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami initiated Gopinath Pujari Goswami, a lifelong brahmachari who served Radha-Ramanaji for his whole life. Gopal Bhatta Goswami also initiated Srinivasa Acharya and many other stalwart Vaishnavas. Gopal Bhatta Goswami ki jai. And now something about Ramachandra Kaviraja. Ramachandra Kaviraja, the son of Sri Chiranjiva, Sri Chiranjiva Sena, an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya, appeared in Sri Khanda. Ramachandra Kaviraja was especially earnest, beautiful, intelligent, energetic, and enthusiastic, said one biographer. Although married, Ramachandra and his wife, Ratanala, had no material attachments. They stayed fully engaged in the loving service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had no children. With steadfast devotion, he served his spiritual master, Srinivasa Acharya. In Vrindavan, Sri Jiva Goswami gave him the title Kaviraj, King of Poets. He wrote the following beautiful verse. I'll skip the Bengali, which has no diacritics. Sriman Mahaprabhu is so kind that he manifests the nectar of the Hare Krishna mantra. The holy name will free all souls from the cycle of birth and death, from lower planets, from hell. The holy name will give one a taste of divine love for Radha-Madhava. Whether blind or dumb, anyone can drown in this flood of prema. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has filled everyone with love of God. But Ramachandra Das is so unfortunate that he couldn't even taste a drop of that nectar. Ramachandra Kaviraja is one of the 8 Kavirajas, famous poet disciples of Srinivasa Acharya. He wrote Smarana Darpana, Smarana Chamatkar, and Siddhanta Chandrika. He preached widely and initiated many disciples. Narottam Das Thakur and Ramachandra lived together as best friends. Narottam Das wrote, O Srinivasa Acharya Prabhu, please give me your mercy. Narottam Das always prays for the association of Ramachandra Kaviraja. In the form of Karna Manjari, he serves Srimati Radharani in Brajalila. Sri Ramachandra Kaviraja Ki Jai. And now today's verse, which we have on the board. Yep. Okay. Okay. Yada Chitav Eva Characharasya Vidama Nishtam Prabhavam Chanityam Tan Namato Anyad Vyavahara Moolam Nirupyatam Sat Kriyayanumeyam Yada Chitabe Vacharacharasya Vidama Nishtam Prabhavam Chanityam Tannamatonyan Vyavahara Moolam Nirupyatang Sat Kriyayanumeyam Yada Chitabe Vacharacharasya Vidama Nishtam Prabhavam Chanityam Tannamatonyan Vyavahara Moolam Nirupyatang Sat Kriyayanumeyam Yada Chitabe Vacharacharasya Vidama Nishtam Prabhavam Chanityam Tannamatonyan Vyavahara Moolam Nirupyatang Sat Kriyayanumeyam. Yada Chitabe Vacharacharasya Prabhavam Chanityam Namatonyan Vyavahara Moolam Pitam Sat Kriyayanumeyam Stave Characharasya Nyan Vyavahara Moolam nirupyatang sat kriyanumeyam. Yadasitabe vachadatarasya vidamanishtam prabhavang cha nityam tannamatonyan babaharamulam. One from Zoomland.
Yada kitab eva chacharasya
Yada chitabe vachadacharasya
vidam nishtam prabhavam chanitam
vidam nishtam prabhavang cha nityam
tannamato nat babaharamulam
tannamatonyan babaharamulam
nirupatam sat kriyanumeyam.
Nirupyatam sat kriyanumeyam. Yada, therefore, chitao, in the earth, eva, certainly, chara acharasya, of different bodies, some moving and some not moving. Vidama, we know. Nishtam, annihilation. Prabhavam, appearance. Cha, and. Nityam, regularly by the principles of nature. Tat, that. Namataha, than simply by name. Anyat, other. Vyabaharamulam, cause of material activities. Nirupyatam, let it be ascertained. Satkriya, by actual employment. Anumeyam, to be inferred. Translation. All of us on the surface of the globe are living entities in different forms. Some of us are moving and some not moving. All of us come into existence, remain for some time, and are annihilated when the body is again mingled with the earth. We are all simply different transformations of the earth. Different bodies and capacities are simply transformations of the earth that exist in name only. For everything grows out of the earth, and when everything is annihilated, it again mingles with the earth. In other words, we are but dust, and we shall but be dust. Everyone can consider this point. Purport. In the Brahma Sutra it is said, Tad ananyatvam arabhana shabdadibhyaha, 2.114. This cosmic manifestation is a mixture of matter and spirit, but the cause is the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.20, it is said, Idam vishvam bhagavan nivetara. The entire cosmic manifestation is but a transformation of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because of illusion, no one can appreciate that God is non-different from the material world. Actually, He is not different, but this material world is simply a transformation of His different energies. Parasya Shaktir Vibhadhaiva Shruyate. There are also other versions of this in the Vedas. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Matter and spirit are all non-different from the Supreme Brahman, Bhagavan. Lord Sri Krishna confirms this statement in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4. Me binna prakatir ashtada. The material energy is Krishna's energy, but it is separated from Him. The spiritual energy is also His energy, but it is not separated from Him. When the material energy is engaged in the service of the Supreme Spirit, so-called material energy is also transformed into spiritual energy, just as an iron rod becomes fire when placed in contact with fire. When we can understand by an analytical study that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes, our knowledge is perfect. Simply understanding the transformations of different energies is partial knowledge. We must come to the ultimate cause. Nate vadu svartakatimhi vishnum. The knowledge of those who are not interested in knowing the original cause of all emanations is never perfect knowledge. There is nothing in the phenomenal world that is not produced by the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aromas from the earth are different scents manufactured and used for different purposes. But the original cause is the earth, nothing else. A water pot made of earth can be used to carry water for some time, but ultimately the pot is nothing but earth. Okay, time out here. Sorry. Okay. Well, I had to change the size of the type. It was distorting. The Vedas therefore enjoin Yasmin Vigyate Sarvamevam Vigyatam Bhavati. Mundaka Upanishad 1.3. If one simply understands the original cause, Krishna, the cause of all causes, then naturally everything else is understood, although it may be presented in different varieties. By understanding the original cause of different varieties, one can understand everything. If we understand Krishna, the original cause of everything, we do not need to separately study the subsidiary varieties. Therefore, from the very beginning it is said, Satyam Padam Dhimahi. This is in the first verse of the Bhagavatam. One has to concentrate one's understanding on the supreme truth, Krishna or Vasudeva. The word Vasudeva indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes. Matstani Savabhutani Nachaham Te Shavastadaha. This is a summary of phenomenal, and this should be numinous philosophy. The phenomenal world depends on the numinous existence. Similarly, everything exists by virtue of the potency of the Supreme Lord. Although due to our ignorance, the Supreme Lord is not perceived in everything. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins with differentiating spirit from matter. The first lesson for Arjuna is that we are not as bodies, and you shouldn't be overly concerned with the bodies of those who are going to be killed in this war, because ultimately no one is killed. Nijayate mriyate vakadacha. And this is one of the summary verses in that beginning second chapter, verse 20. So why is it important to know that? Because unless we understand that we're spirit and that this body is simply a changing vehicle, or as Krishna says, like a set of clothes that eventually will take off and take on a new body, then we're forced to live a life based on the conception of ourselves as the body. This is the big mistake. This is really the big lie. You know, people want to know the big lie, but it's an illusion that's created by Maya because we want it to be separate from Krishna. It's entirely our own fault that we're here. We turned away from Krishna. We became absorbed in the material energy because we wanted to control it and enjoy it. That's our fallacy, which has caused everything afterward. So the first lesson, the first duty of every inquiring soul who wants ultimate benefit is to start to first understand that we're these eternal souls who are not at all really connected to matter, but because of our illusion, we're identifying with this material covering, which, as Judd Bharat points out here, is simply made of the earth and liquids and gases and all of the different energies that Krishna describes in chapter 7. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. This is our covering, more and more subtle. So until we understand that, then we have to identify with these bodies and the relations with these bodies, the pleasures and pains, and we're in Maya. We're in illusion. And it means a whole lot of suffering, life after life. So Judd Bharat is again reiterating this lesson for King Rahugana. And in this purport, Prabhupada, he quotes many shastras describing this. This is an interesting one. Idam ni vishram bhagavani vetara. That this verse says, this Vishwa, this universe, is Bhagavan, but it seems to be something else. Now, how is it Bhagavan? Because it's composed of nothing but his energies. Krishna and his energies are one. This is the Achincha Beta Tattva. is that he's, which means inconceivable, is simultaneously different from and the same as all of his energies. And those energies include us. We're part of the higher energy, known as the marginal energy. We're intrinsically part of the spiritual energy, but because we're minute, we have the tendency sometimes to become absorbed in the material energy and identify ourselves with that. So that's why we're marginal. And being marginal, we can choose again to turn our attention to Krishna and reestablish, reinvigorate and reawaken ourselves to that eternal relationship. And that's what Bhakti is all about. So, but first we have to understand our present situation. And the present situation is we're here in this material universe. We ourselves are part of it. I just heard a lecture this morning where Prabhupada said something, I've heard this before, that each of us, each of our bodies is a little mini universe. You know, we're like trying to be the supreme controller of this body, right? And each of these cells in our body, sometimes Prabhupada says there's like a living entity in there. When it is born, right, it grows, it has a certain function, it dies, the cells have to be. So, and we as the controller, we're trying to be the master of all these cells and make it work right. But we know that it doesn't work like that. Sometimes things happen, you sprain your ankle, or you get sick, or something more serious happens. And no matter how you wish it to happen, it's out of your control. It's under a higher power, right? Maya and ultimately Krishna. So we can never be the supreme controllers of our environment. We can only pretend to control, and for a short time, and in this way get ourselves more and more entangled. So the first step in God realization, in our cure, this is a cure for the disease of birth and death, the disease of Maya, which has entangled us, is to understand our real position. That's why Sanatana Goswami's first question to Lord Chaitanya was, who am I? Who am I? K-I-M-E. Why am I suffering the threefold miseries? Until I understand that, then everything else I do is futile. You can enjoy a little bit in this world, but then there's a whole lot of stuff. Eventually you die, it's all left behind, right? And then you start a whole new chapter. And if you have no access to at least the Vedas and moral activities, Manu Samhita, then you're bound to perform all kinds of sinful activities and likely lose the human form of life, which is a great tragedy. So, Jad Bharat is reiterating this knowledge, and he quotes, Prabhupada quotes first from the Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra, that this cosmic manifestation is a mixture of matter and spirit, but the cause is the Supreme Brahman. This is why we have to know Krishna and his energies. This is a complete knowledge. We sing every morning, right? Chakurdan dilo ye janme janme prabhu se dibyagan ride prokashito. That life after life, that my spiritual master, who's opened my eyes, given me eyes of knowledge, is my master, and he's bestowing this dibya gyan, this transcendental knowledge. And something that we don't have in the translation is, from that transcendental knowledge comes prema, which is the ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal in practicing bhakti is prema. And that automatically includes going back to Godhead and liberation and every other thing, if we can reawaken that. So that means that we need to know these things. Because as you understand yourself in this world, that will determine how you act and interrelate with the world. If we see everything in this world, just like a temple is an ideal environment for that, because everything is automatically related to Krishna, right? The walls, the paint, the pictures, the deities, of course, the devotees in the temple. The relationship is there. So it's easy to remember Krishna here. You go outside and everything is not directly related to Krishna. So we have to know this person walking here, you know, is a mixture of matter and spirit, and they're being controlled by the modes of nature. You know. But they are as eternally as servants of Krishna as I am. And so let me help them. Give them at least a Hare Krishna, or try to approach them with a book, or somehow dress like a devotee so they'll remember Krishna. Right? That's important when we're outside. But so that changes the way that we relate to this world and to everyone in it. And that knowledge needs to be constantly reiterated, because we tend to forget and to fall back, especially in the sadhana stage, into our old identities and stuff like that. So that's one of the importance here. So it's a transformation, not of Krishna, but of the energies. See, this is the Mayavadi thing. is that there's they don't accept that the absolute truth has energies, and that he's not changed by the transformation of the energies. And say, well, if the Brahman can't become the material world, because then the Brahman will be changed. You see? So therefore, Vyasadeva made a mistake, which is like not a good idea. So they created this whole Sharirika Bhashya for Vedanta Sutra. But the understanding that it's very simple. The sun is there giving all this heat and light for millions and millions of years. The sun is not transformed, but the energy it gives out makes all kinds of transformations. Makes it hotter, makes it warmer. The plants grow. Even we understand the planets are being sustained by this energy, but the sun remains as it is. Krishna is always as it is, but he has this parasya shakti vibhadhaya vashuyate swabhavaki jnana balakriyacha. So he himself has no duty. A duty is always imposed by a higher authority. Think about it. Even material duties, right? I mean, you accept them because of higher moral authority. A man gets married, has children. Okay, I've got to take care of these children. I just can't go carousing all the time. I have to go to work and support, in other words, there's an acceptance of a higher duty. You get, there's a war going on, the government needs soldiers, you have to go and fight like that. The higher authority. So Krishna has no higher authority, therefore it says, natasya karyam karanam chavidyate. There's no duty he has to perform. And yet we see that he accepts, what you say, austerity, if you will. He comes to this world, yadaya dahidam glana bhavati bharata. And he annihilates the miscreants, he reestablishes his dharma, he protects his devotees. Why is he doing all of these things? For him, the whole thing is based on love. And he's expanded himself as all of us, living entities, with the aim of enjoying rasa. But the living entities, some of them, like us, we become illusioned and we wander away, we're in exile. We come far away from our original home and from our original consciousness. So Krishna feels that he wants to help us. Even when he comes down and kills all these millions of soldiers, Jarasan, you ever read the Krishna book? 17 times, he annihilates, he and Balaram and the little army, they annihilate. So he's doing them a favor. Nobody dies. Nobody dies. But because they're killed by Krishna, they're blessed and they go to higher existence. So he never forgets his relation with us. We regret our relation with him, but he knows that our benefit is in reviving that, and so he makes all kinds of arrangements to do that. And one of the arrangements is what we're reading right now. He inspired Srila Prabhupada to write these books, to come and have them create the society so they'll be distributed. First read. He first wanted his disciples or anyone connected to this movement to read and understand these books, and then to distribute them widely and live by them. So that's all part of Krishna's blessing on Srila Prabhupada because of his wonderful pure devotion and strong desire to serve his spiritual master. So this idea that Krishna is not different from the material world because it's all his energy. So how can we use that knowledge? Well, our perfection, our sadhana leading to our perfection, is to use as much of this material energy in Krishna's service. Because it's his. Isha vashamidam sarvam yatkincha jagacham jagat. Everything is owned by God, right? It's created, it's all controlled by him, and it's owned by him. So we're criminals when we try to use it in our own service, forgetting his relationship with him. Now, this verse also says you're entitled to your portion that you need for your maintenance, and that's fine, but not more than that. And everything else that you get control of should be engaged in Krishna's service. And as Prabhupada explains here, then the material quality of it becomes changed and it becomes spiritual. Just like the stone that was used to make these deities, or the wood. It's not ordinary stone or ordinary wood anymore. It's been spiritualized. There's Radha-Giridhari. It's not, we don't say there's a statue of Radha-Giridhari. There's Radha-Giridhari. There's Jagannath, Baladev Subhadra, there's Gauranitai. And by worshiping them with the understanding that these are manifestations, these are divine manifestations of Krishna and his expansions, we can develop our relationship with Krishna, our loving relationship. When Lord Chaitanya saw Jagannath, he saw Krishna. He didn't see, a wooden statue. And he fell down, and he was, and in those last 12 years, he was experiencing all the relationships in the mood of Radha-Rani with Krishna, especially Rath Yatra, So what's happened there is that wood, which was carved in a certain way and blessed in a certain way, so many installation mantras and everything, it became spiritualized so that it can be a way in which we can see and serve the Lord even in our present condition. That's the mercy of the Lord. We're too covered over. We can't see the Spirit. But Krishna manifests through matter, spiritual, so that we can experience the spiritual nature of Krishna and awaken our own pure love for Him, our own affection. And as Prabhupada says here, when the material energy is engaged in the service of the Supreme Spirit, so-called material energy is also transformed into spiritual energy. And the classic example is the iron rod. The iron rod is just cold, it's inert. But when you put it in the fire, after a short time, it becomes so hot that it can act as fire. So we need to stay in the fire of Krishna consciousness, which means strong sadhana and service throughout the day, remembering Krishna, trying to, with great attention, performing our services. And if we can't, live in the temple, we have responsibilities outside, trying to remember as Krishna as much as possible. And when the opportunity arises, to give Krishna to some co-workers or something, or add Krishna consciousness to it. It's more difficult, obviously, but that's what it takes. Because the more you're in that fire, means the more you're actually Krishna conscious and doing things for Krishna. What does Krishna say in the 9th chapter? Yat karoshi, yarishnasi, yadjuhosi, dadasi, yat pasasi konteya, matkurishramarapadam, tatkurishramarapadam. Whatever you eat, we all have to eat something. Whatever you do, yarishnasi, yat karoshi, yarishnasi, yadjuhosi, whatever you offer, give away, do that as an offering for me. Find a way in which it can be connected to me. Give the fruits of the work to Krishna. Yagyartat kamanon yatra lokayam kamabandhana. Every activity has to be performed as an act of sacrifice of Vishnu. Otherwise, whatever you're doing is binding you to this material world. Now that's a tall order. Krishna's not missing any words there. But that's what it takes. A corresponding verse to the Set Karoshi verse is in the 11th canto, where one of the 9 Yogendras is describing the source of fear and how to overcome fear. And he has a verse there that's Kayena Vacha Manasendriyava Buddhyatmanava Nusasabhavat Kadodi Yadyat Sakalam Padasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayetat. Are you familiar with this verse? You've never seen. So whatever you do with your body, well, that's all the saying. Vacha, with your words, with your mind, with your senses, Manasendriyava, with your intelligence, Buddhyatmana, with yourself, that you have gotten all these according to your karma. We all have different sets of these. Karoti yad yad, whatever you do, sakalam padasmai, all of them you realize, this is an offering for Narayan. I'm doing this for Narayan. Now imagine, that means every breath, every step, everything you're doing, you say, I'm just doing this for Narayan. Then you're living a blessed life. We saw that with Prabhupada. He would pick up the phone, but he wouldn't just pick up the phone. You would see that he was doing it with full consciousness, that he was going to speak about Krishna on that phone, that he was giving some instruction or whatever it was doing. And that can hold for everything, even the ordinary bodily functions we have to do. I'm taking rest now. I'm taking rest for Krishna, so I can have energy and wakefulness tomorrow to serve him. So that's the stage in which the whole world really becomes spiritual. That's why Prabodhananda Saraswati, in his wonderful verse about being empowered by the sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, he says, Kaivalyang nadakayate, Chidashapura kashapushpayate, Durdantendra yakada sarvapatali, Protkata dangstrayate, Vishwam purna sukhayate, Vidimahinda jistakitayate, Yatkarunyakataksabaibhavatam tam goramevasamak. For one who has been empowered by the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, because of participating 100% in the Sankirtan movement, this is the result. The Kaivalya, merging into Brahman, losing one's identity, is like going to hell. You'd rather be in hell than where you can serve Krishna because you have a form, you can chant Hare Krishna, rather than be merged into Brahman where you have no voice, you have no body, you have no nothing, there's no Krishna, there's no Bhakti. You see what I'm saying? So that's the first thing. Kaivalya Kayatri. And the 33 million gods and realms, the heavenly realms are just like a sky flower, meaning that they don't mean anything to you. It's just imaginary. Who cares? Akasha Pushpayate. The very difficult to control senses. Now here's where it becomes really pertinent to us. The senses are always pulling us here and there. But he says, Durdandendriya Kala Sarpa, which are like poisonous snakes and ready to bite you and drag your consciousness away from Krishna, are like the poisonous snakes with their fangs removed. Now why does he use this analogy? Because the senses remain. You still can see, you can hear, you can taste, you can touch. But they can't hurt you because they're always being used in Krishna's service. They become paraphernalia for service. Like one of the personified Vedas prays like that. Says this human body is ideal for serving you. And when everything is engaged, then it becomes your best friend, your dearest friend. Because the eyes are allowing me to see Krishna, the ears are allowing me to hear Krishna. So it all becomes blessed. So the same senses are there, but they can't draw your consciousness. Rather, they can help draw your consciousness to Krishna. And then he says, Vishwam Purna Sukayate, and this is the one I wanted to say. And the whole universe is filled with joy. Well, how is that? Isn't that against what Krishna says? He says, Dukkaliyam Shashvatam, that this world is a place is an abode of misery. So how is this, the Prabodhananda saying it's a place of happiness? Because for the devotee who sees Krishna's pastimes everywhere, who sees Krishna everywhere, because it connects everything to Krishna because it's his energy, then it's a place of happiness. But it's like Prahlad. He said, I have no problem. I can chant your glories anytime I want, and I'll be immersed in an ocean of happiness. And he proved it. Even in the middle of the pot of boiling oil, he's remembering Krishna, chanting his glories. He's not suffering. But I am lamenting. Prabhupada says in the Prabhupada, he was happy and unhappy at the same time. So I'm happy because of these fools and rascals who have turned away from you and are trying with great effort to enjoy this flickering sense gratification. And in the next verse he says, therefore I have to try to help them be Krishna conscious. In other words, I don't see anyone but you, my Lord, who can help them, and I have to be an agent for giving them to preach, and that's an austerity. So this is the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. We have the process by which we can all become very blissful at any time, in any condition. But we also have the responsibility to try to give this wonderful medicine of Krishna consciousness to people who are suffering the disease of illusion and birth and death. So that's an important lesson here. Let's see. Simply understanding the transformation of different energies is partial knowledge. So that's dry. In other words, you have to add the bhakti part, how to use these energies in Krishna's service. Okay. So Prabhupada goes through, and he's basically is a lot of this is you can find in outline form in the 7th chapter. Now, the 7th of Bhagavad Gita. Now it's interesting the transition between the 6th chapter and the 7th chapter. The 6th chapter is all about dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, right? It's an outline, and it's pretty austere. Go alone, sit this way, and practice pranayama, and remember, and think of me within the heart, like that. So after all, Krishna's explanation, and he describes a beautiful 3 or 4 verses, about 6:20 to 23, of the result of samadhi. And it's all, you're thinking of Krishna in the heart. Having attained this, you will think there is no greater gain. In other words, you're Krishna conscious, But Arjuna rejects it. He says, this is too hard for me. I'm a Kshatriya. Chanchalam himana Krishna pramati balavadram. The mind is very stubborn, very powerful, flickering. Like controlling it is what's the analogy he gives? Controlling the wind. I always think of Miami with the hurricanes. We always watch the weather report when a certain time of the year comes in. Is the hurricane coming? There's no way of controlling it. You have to run, batten the hatches, and get out of there. So it's impossible to control the wind. So Arjuna is pleading that he can't do it. So Krishna says, yes, it's very difficult, but you can do it by practice. And so he said, well, okay, Arjuna said, but what if I fail? Am I like a riven cloud? I gave up my material side and failed in the spiritual. No, there's no failure. You'll be born in a family of devotees or great yogis, at least a rich family. You won't have to worry about that. Pious, Anyway, after all of that, Arjuna is still not so eager to practice Ashtanga Yoga. But so Krishna says, don't worry. Yogi Namba Bisarvesham Madgatena Antaratmana. That of all the yogis, the best yogi is always thinking with great faith and love, you see. So it says, so Arjuna's encouraged. I'm always thinking of Krishna. That's good, But then the next verse, the 7th chapter beginning, he says, now I'm going to tell you how you can develop, you can train your mind to always think of me without going to the Himalayas and practice it. Maya Sakta Manaparta Yogam Yunjan Manashya. The idea is asakta, which is becoming attached to me. Yogam, and with this you'll have all the knowledge and vijnana you need. And then he starts describing the material energies. Bhuma apa ananovaya. So he starts with where we're at. We're in the material world. But this is earth. It's not just the place where you walk, and make, farm with it. No, I build buildings. This is my energy. And so is all the liquids, and so is all the gases, and so is all the radiant energy, and finer, and even the space and the mind. This is all my energy, you see. And the interactions of the soul with those energies produces these sensations. Rasoham apsakonteya. I'm the taste of water. I am the light of the sun or the moon. I am the ability of man. I am the fragrance of the earth, and so on. In other words, as we live in this world, if we can remember those verses, we'll remember Krishna. Because when are we not either seeing the light of the sun or tasting the water, smelling some fragrance, you see? So this is a way in which we can train ourselves to think of Krishna always through our regular daily experiences. Now, the key is that this consciousness will disappear when we try to exploit those energies and those sensations for our sense gratification. So therefore, it can't just be a static thing that you're just living and you're thinking. There has to be action, because that's what we are. We act. We live in the world. We interact with these elements. So therefore, that's the process of devotional service. Yes, I'm the taste of water. I'm the taste of everything. But if we prepare nice preparations for Krishna, which taste wonderful, but we don't taste them first, we offer them to Krishna, then we're using that consciousness of the interaction of the tongue with the elements in the proper way. And when we taste that remnants of Krishna's food that he's tasted, it's an active exchange of love. It's not just a sense gratification. The tongue can take you to hell. We know that. And for most people, Prabhupada said they'll eat anything. Some people eat anything. It's, I haven't tried that yet. Let me try this exotic food. I don't even want to, unmentionable. I remember when I was a kid, I lived near New York City, so we would go sometimes into the city. We didn't have enough money to go into those expensive restaurants, but we would walk down the street, Fifth Avenue, wherever it was, and then you look in there, and there was a fish tank, and in the fish tank was a big lobster, alive, and this was like an attraction. Oh yeah, they're so fresh. We take the live ones and put them in the pot for you. Oh my God! I mean, even at that age, without any knowledge of Krishna consciousness, I was horrified by that. Are you kidding me? I never tasted lobster. I just couldn't imagine it. But and this is mentioned in the 5th canto. We're going to read at the end of this canto the different hells. One of the hells is those who boil a fish or whatever alive and eat them. Then they get boiled. Then you have to suffer that for millions of years. So people without knowledge, they just go, this is a sign that we're connoisseurs or gourmets, and we'll eat it. And this way, the tongue, the demand, taking you straight to hell for tremendous suffering. Or by the tongue is the first element of bhakti. You know the verse. Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayam Indreyai Sevan Mukhe Jivadao Swayam Eva Sparajita. With these senses, in our contaminated state, we cannot perceive directly Krishna. We mentioned that. Nama, his name, etc. But if one begins bhakti, beginning with the tongue, jivado, then eventually you become purified and Krishna reveals himself. And that with the jivado is, what's the function? Vibrating and tasting. I was reading this. I was reading the CC. I just finished again to go through, but I started again. And Prabhupada is mentioning there, I was there, or maybe another purport I read in the Bhagavatam, how the two practices for preaching are Harinam Sankirtan and distributing prasadam to the masses. Now of course if you have books, then that's a very important element of it, and Prabhupada struggled. But this was Lord Chaitanya's program. He'd have big kirtans and then distributing prasadam. He never gave a big lecture to common people. He would preach, but he would preach to the Pakashananda and convert him and Sarvabhauma and others, and of course to train up his Rupa and Sanatan, he would give that instruction. But to the mass of people, always big kirtan and huge prasadam distribution. The service of the tongue, very, very powerful. And that's how this movement started. Of course, Prabhupada would always give a lecture, but he would always precede it with kirtan, and afterward there was kirtan and prasadam distribution. And so this is a very powerful method, especially for this age. How the mind can be turned to Krishna. You get a taste of the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. You still have so many anarthas, yes, but with that taste, the faith is increased. You get the seed of faith, and you want to practice seriously, and you can actually cultivate Krishna consciousness seriously. So, let's see. Oh my God, it's late. Does anyone have any comment, question?
Hare Krishna.
Hold on one second. Any locals? No? Okay. Go ahead, Vijay.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. You're very kind. At the very end of the purport, I find that due to our ignorance, we cannot perceive God in everything. So based on this, my question is, how knowledgeable do I need to become in order to perceive God in everything?
Well, the knowledge that we get needs to be confirmed, if you will, and strengthened by practice. In other words, I know now. I know that I'm a spirit soul, that I'm part and parcel of Krishna. I know that the practice of the age is most efficacious is chanting the holy name. I know that now. What am I going to do about it? Hare Krishna, Krishna. And I have to start practicing chanting. So that's how the knowledge is really confirmed to be knowledge. Otherwise, you become a dilettante. In other words, I know this, but I don't really change anything. And there are departments of study in the universities. On my shelf, because of my work, I have another translation of the CC, of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's one volume. There's no real commentary. One thick volume, done by some scholar. I forget what university. It costs $100 because they only print 60 or 70 for their students. But I needed to have it over the years. I've had it for many years. So, but those students and that teacher, they're not Vaishnavas. They're studying at a distance. They're studying for the test, and they're comparing it with this and this and this and that and so forth. But they're not. It's not penetrating their hearts and giving them faith by which they'll practice. Generally speaking, sometimes they get serious. So what I'm saying is that knowledge itself, just for knowledge's sake, is static. It needs to be confirmed by your activities. In other words, that's why, was it Tamal Krishna Maharaj? Somebody talked to someone at a university, so I read the Bhagavad Gita, so what are you going to do? And he looked at me, the person looked at him blankly. And he'd read so many other books, and for the course, he wasn't expected to do anything except study and take the test. But Bhagavad Gita is not like that. It's what we used to call, and I studied ethics for a while in college, normative. Normative means this is knowledge that's meant to transform your life, that you're supposed to live by. And if it's not, then it becomes, Prabhupada said there's hundreds of translations of Bhagavad Gita, but no one became a devotee, because neither the translator nor the student were serious about practicing or getting out of the problems of birth and death, old age and disease. This is why the first understanding is that in this wonderful thing we heard fairly recently, what is the meaning of Hare Krishna? When you chant it, someone will ask, what does it mean? It means I need help. In other words, it's a call to God that I'm in this material world. Please save me. Please enlighten me. Please give me a way that I can know you better. If there isn't something like that, then it becomes a cinema song. That'll also be, they use it sometimes in cinema songs. But neither the actors nor the audience is in that mood. So the whole idea is that our ignorance, what is it? Due to our ignorance, the Supreme Lord is not perceived in everything. So we may have some of the book knowledge called Gyan, which is important. But if it doesn't at least start to become Vigyan by our practicing and living it accordingly, then we're still not going to perceive Krishna everywhere. You notice I mentioned that when we in the 7th chapter, Krishna is giving an analysis. Bhuma, Apa, Onolvaya. There's these 8 external energies, and then there's also the higher energy, Para Prakriti, the living entities, and then there's the interactions, and that's the light of the sun and the moon, the taste of the water, and so forth. So the whole idea behind that is that we're supposed to incorporate that knowledge into our daily life. And more than just that, the taste of this water is Krishna, let me offer some water to Krishna. This is part of it. This is his water. Let me offer it back to him. I'm also part of his energy. Let me offer my life to him. You see? And this will be to my greatest benefit. I know from experience that trying to be separate from him is causing me all kinds of trouble. And now I've learned from the Bhagavad Gita the fact that has happened for many, many, many lifetimes. I've suffered so many deaths, so many diseases, so many old ages, and none of it's been pleasant. So let me stop this Holocaust. You see? So knowledge is meant to change our behavior, and then we can begin to perceive Krishna in everything. That's it.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, as usual, wonderful answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. You want this? No.